Hello, this is the podcast from the international research platform SIMM, with reports and interviews from across the world on the role music can play in social and community programs. I am Lucas Perron. During the coming 2 episodes of the SIMM-podcast, we focus on practice and research of participatory projects of opera and music theatre. We will, during this first episode, hear 3 wonderful practitioners developing projects in this field. Singers Paulo Lameiro and Sarah Thierry, and stage director Claire Pasquier. This is a somewhat longer episode of about an hour, but we think it makes sense to take the time to listen to the details which Paulo, Sarah and Claire give us about how they decided to develop their practice. Let us first listen to what singer Paulo Lameiro can share with us about his work developing opera productions in the prison of Leira near Lisbon in Portugal.
So, hello Paulo Lameiro. So good to have you in this podcast episode.
Oh, and to me also, Lucas. Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Yes. I will talk with you as if I don't know much about your work. Huh?
Okay.
Don't blame me.
No.
We want the listeners to find out about your work, yes? So this episode is about what we call participatory opera making, music theatre making. And so this is something that you're very much involved in a very specific way. So please tell us about it.
Well, so many things. First time I was invited to conduct a concert in a prison. I was a 16-year-old boy in 1981.
So you're working in prison contexts, yes.
Yes, and in that time I learned that the music inside of that specific context are very, very important. And then between 1981 and 2004, I used to play in some church masses, like in Christmas or in baptism. I'm invited to play in the prison. And for that period, I remember that most part of the inmates, and in my city, we have 2 prisons and 1 national prison for strong crimes of young people between 16 and 23 years old.
Uh-huh.
And in that time, especially the African inmates, they practice a lot of music. They like to sing, they like to dance. And of course, I understand that maybe it's important we have a different project inside of the prison. But only in 2004, a director invited me to create, musical classes in the prison. At that time, musical classes.
Uh-huh.
And when I was presented to the inmates by the director, they present me as an opera singer. We have here Maestro Lameiro.
That's what you are.
Well, I was in time, not anymore. But yes, I marked. It's very important for this story that I was an opera singer in an opera theater, and that time of my life teach me that it's very difficult to find a world so complex and so rich than an opera theater. And I have in my body, I have in my mind that time. But when I was presented, the inmates don't like at all that the opera singer will be his music teacher, because it's something very strange. And one of the inmates, his name Arnaldo, say a very bad word and say everything but not opera. And from that moment, I understood that, opera, it's a powerful word. Just the word, opera, it's a powerful word. How it's possible that just a word give to these guys so many power? Because they thought, they ate It's something very, very strange and far away from their own interests.
Yeah.
And in that precise moment, I discover, well, maybe opera, it's a good beginning to be together with these people.
Because yes, we could say that there is a connection,
Of course,
a strong connection.
of course, of course. And
Not necessarily a very positive connection at first, but yes.
a strong connection. And when I thought in the week after our first meeting, I thought, what may I show to these people and these young people about opera that could offer to them, well, a special experience. Me, I just discovered opera only with 18 years old. And it's very important because I discovered opera in a very specific context. And I remember, wow, maybe it's possible to offer to this community something special. And I showed to them two important pieces of opera. Well, first of all, of course, I have in my mind Peter Sellers' Don Giovanni and Peter Sellers' Così. But special Peter Sellers' Don Giovanni have everything. It's about that community, everything. The Leporello and Don Giovanni singers, two black Geminals singers, great singers, all the social context, all the human connections are exactly the same of that guys. And the opera begin with a crime. And all the opera talks about how we as a community we judged those who commit different things. We don't talk about crimes, but different acts and how we react to that. And after that first moment, it's incredible because we have 27 inmates looking to a screen and they have been 2 hours in the half with just silence. They are incredible. How opera could be so important for them.
And so Mozart's Don Giovanni could make a connection to what they could identify with in their own lives.
Yes, because...
At least through Peter Sellers' interpretation, staging of production of the opera.
Yes. Lucas, in the beginning, Peter Sellers are very important because all the story are told in a very specific cultural and social way. And for them, they never imagine that there is someone so many centuries ago and singers of today that express their own afraids, their own dreams, their own challenge in a very powerful music and different music than the music they practice inside of the prison. So the story, and they discover, of course, opera, it's a story. They think opera, it's someone just screaming, wow! And then they discover that there is a story.
They're screaming something.
Yes, they scream something. And, well, Don Giovanni, in particular, are very important at that time. And, of course, we improve a system to offer opera to that community. First of all, we understood that we need to learn from each other what we have as classical musicians with something not in common with their own tastes, but what we have that could be experienced in a strong way, in a different way to them. But at the same level, we need to open our lives and our hearts and our minds to experience their own musical tastes, musical practices, and dance tastes. And so we just defined a systematic program with 3 years. 3 years. The first year, we just meeting together 3 times a week to learn from each other. We show them our operas, but we show them our classical instruments. We practice with them violin, cello, bassoon, oboe. We explain that an opera conductor or an opera singer receive the same money as Cristiano Ronaldo playing football, and they become very surprised about this. But they also teach us about African beat, about kuduro dance, about all the practice they have, and we learn to be together. And very important, we exchange music, we exchange dance, but we also exchange our families, because we work inside of the prison in this first year with inmates, but we also work with the relatives, mothers, girlfriends, the co-reos, those who commit the same crimes with them outside of the prison, and we sing simple canons with them, and of course...
so they could come into the prison context and work with you together? Musicians from outside?
No. We enter in the prison to work with inmates, but we have a program because in Mondays we sing in the prison with inmates. In Tuesday we sing with families outside of the prison, and we ran away to all country where the families lived, and we sing with them. And this first year we just know each other and offer them the experience to learn to sing some Bach choral or some African canon. And then on the second year, we learn a Mozart score, an entire Mozart score.
Sopportar, mangiar male, mal dormir. Voglio far il gentiluomo e non voglio più servir, e non voglio più servir, non voglio più servir. Ah, che caro galantuomo, vuoi star dentro con la bella ed io far la sentinella, la sentinella, la sentinella.
To have good results, it's not only the inmates that work with us. We involved the prisonal professionals, and when I talk about prisonal professionals, I talk from the director of the prison, the chief of the guards, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, all the people that work in the kitchen, and we create a choir inside of the prison. And for instance, the Don Giovanni premiere in the prison, the commendatory role was sang by the director of the prison. Those who kill the commendatory in the beginning of the opera, it's not Don Giovanni, it's the chief of the guards with a real gun. And we put together everything They loved everything. They become excited. The guards love guns. So we create a real crime with a real gun and killing the director. Of course, it's not only Mozart that changed all of us. It's the opportunity for that inmates and the guards to have a rehearsal and a singing, a voice teacher. At the same time, they learn side by side of the director of the prison. And this is completely different because the energy of the crime of Don Giovanni, Leporello, Mozart are increased in the stage to have real criminals with the director of the prison to be killed and, of course, the chief of the guards. And with this experience during a whole year, because the mothers and the families also learn to dance a minuetto, because the families, the relatives outside of the prison sang the choirs of the Don Giovanni to sing with their sons, but also they learn with a classical dancer to dance minuettos, and all the dance are made it with inmates and relatives.
Al fin siam liberati, Zelinetta gentil, da quel sciottone, che ne dite mio ben so far pulito.
Signore, è mio marito.
Chi? Colui? Vi pare che un onesto uomo, un nobil cavalier, come io mi vanto, possa soffrir che quel visetto d'oro, quel viso inzuccherato.
And at the end of the day and in the final production, it all comes together?
Yes, of course. And they dance together not only in the performance inside of the prison, but because we gain the trust of the prisonal system.
Performances outside also.
And they accepted to do something outside. And because we prepared this in the beginning, just 5 inmates, 7 inmates, 8 inmates. And then in the end, we go to Lisbon, to the main auditorium of Gulbenkian Foundation with 30 inmates. It's an incredible security operational. You know, it's real incredible. And we put the inmates with the families in the stage, with the Gulbenkian Foundation Orchestra, with professional singers together. And this provoke a lot of learning process. Of course, a lot of aesthetic catharsis, emotional changes, social impact with all of us. And we are not talking about the inmates. What's happened with this project, it's much more with those who offer the project to the community, because the community becomes all of us, the orchestra musics, the financial sponsors, the stakeholders, the journalists, the photographers, the psychologists, the musicians, all of us. And we change much more than them. But we have a problem, because in the end of the second year, what we do now after this experience, what it's possible to do, because it's something we fly to the heaven. We have so intense experience, and now what we will do next? And the third year of the project, it's finding tools, moments, process to transfer this experience of each one of us, inmates and all of us, to the future. What it's important to do. Well, in the beginning, Lucas, we have a dream. Well, it's possible to find artistic jobs for these inmates when they become free. And we try to do...
Is that so? Yes?
Yes. And
Is that so? Yeah.
Yes, and we try to do this.
Il catalogo è questo, delle belle cavò il padron mio, un catalogo che ho fatto io. Osservate, leggete con me, osservate, leggete con me. Italia 640, in Lamagna 281, 100 in Francia, in Turchia 91, ma in Spagna son già 1003.
In your project, the opera project that you've been developing in prison in near Lisbon, the collaboration with people surrounding the inmates, be guards, the direction, psychologists, even security people, and so has been really crucial in making things happen. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, when we are talking about opera, it's the Gesamtkunstwerk. We have a lot of co-creation partners for the final result. Just talking about a common opera. But when we want to do an opera inside of the prison, of course, it's very important that for us, the community, and to improve not only a good artistic final moment, artistic final result, but we also need a final social, human quality result. And for that, it's very important from the beginning that all the partners of the process participate in the same level. We don't want that the guards are there just to guard the inmates, or the director to command the process, or the psychologist.
You even invited them to participate.
Of course, and it's not only invited to participate, Lucas. It's invited to participate at the same level of the professionals.
Yes, but Paulo, you say it's of course, but I don't think it's so evident. No, I imagine.
Oh yes.
How did it go about? Did you need a lot of effort to convince them to participate, or did that come by itself?
What we know, Lucas, if we offer a good concert where the director and the guards are in the chairs listening the inmates, or are behind the inmates taking care that no one run away of the prison, the energy in the room are one. But if we have, of course, guards taking care of the inmates. But imagine, Lucas, if the guards are taking care of the inmates, but in the stage they have other guards singing, they act in a different way with the inmates, because they are looking to the inmates in a different way, in a similar level of their own role of the guards. And this changed everything. So, for instance, in the first year we enter in the prison, we discovered that one guard used to joke with the inmates, sing with a falsetto voice. And they have a very good falsetto voice, a very good. And they become in love with Baroque opera. They learn to sing a Carissime aria. And in the first time we have a little rehearsal in the prison, in the Christmas concert, the guard sang a Carissime aria with a falsetto voice. When after this moment, everything changed in the prison, everything. Even the cookers, the cookers of the prison look to the guards in a different way. Just to say that if we don't look to a project taking care of the community, and I'm not talking only about inmates. When we work in the prison, in hospital, for instance, I compare a lot the prisonal system to the hospital system, the power system, the money system, the pharmacy power money in the hospital, and the drugs money in the prison. It's very similar, everything. And that it's not possible to have a good music therapeutic project in a hospital if the director of the hospital don't have the experience of sing, play, and experience his own changes by listen and sing music. So in the prison, of course, it's not easier if we look to a guard as a guard. But we don't look to a guard as a guard. We look to a guard as a human being. Let's go again to the Babies Project, where we learn this.
Sarah Terry is a French mezzo-soprano who is at the same time in a classical music career, but also very keen on being actively involved in social music projects, such as the one she is lately working on together with the organization Equinox, an initiative of the Belgian Queen Elizabeth Music Chapel. I hope this was a good short introduction to you.
It was perfect.
What made you want to be involved in a social music project at all?
Well, I guess it is coming from the fact that I'm not coming from a musician family. My parents are teachers and I grew up in a countryside in Brittany. And but somehow I got the classical music virus somehow when I was a kid. My parents were listening a lot of music at home, music from...
Does it hurt?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It was quite an inspiration for me. I think we were listening to music from all over the world, but also a little bit of classical. But I guess it's because I saw movies and I went to the theater quite early when I was a kid. And suddenly I wanted to be a classical singer. I wanted to be an opera singer. And so when I started to do these outreach projects, these social music projects, this is, I think, what I wanted to do. It's create vocation. It's to inspire people to become a musician, as I was inspired as a kid, not coming from this background, not going so often to the theater because there were none close to my home. So I wanted to go and reach people in their own environment to show them that music was not far away from their lives and could also reach them into their lives.
Can you tell me what were your first experiences in this field?
So I started to... Because I was inspired as a kid and because my parents are teachers, the first people I went to reach was kids at school, in high school in France. I was building up recitals with a friend, a pianist friend, and I went to high school, I went to middle school. Then I also went to hospital, to mental health institution, to prisons, to refugee centers. And it was all the time concert made for these places. I think when you talk about outreach programs, these social music works, there is two things. They are divided for me in two parts. There is the first part, which is making music for.
Performing.
Designing, performing, designed recitals or designed shows for a specific audience. And this is how I started, by making music for. And there is also the second part, which is making music with. And I think that we will get to that a little bit later. Making music for, it's the easiest way of going into an outreach project. It's basically what you know how to do, bringing your excellence on stage, but you are building this excellence towards an audience that is not convinced that you should be there. When an audience come to a concert, they come to listen to you, or at least the piece that you are performing. So they are on your side. They chose to come there. When you are going to places, to different places, when you go out of the recital hall, you need to convince the people. So you need to communicate with them. So you need to have different skills than the one of the performer. You need to communicate. You need to present the pieces that you are playing. You need to create a narrative around this piece. Why did you choose this piece? What does it say? What does it say to you? Who is the composers and everything? And you need to be super flexible, because the reaction to the public is not the one from the audience you are used to. They can clap whenever they want. They can talk during the concert. They can ask you questions. They are really active because they don't have these codes of a classical concert. So you need to be super flexible. The acoustic is not right. When you go to the schools, you go and you sing at 9 a.m, which you never do as a performer. And you need to really embrace what's happening during the concert. It's very important. And this is part of a skill that we are not used to go and how can I say that? We are used to perfection. And here, when you go into outreach projects, you should be used to flexibility. You should bring your perfection, because you always have to perform at your best, but you need to be extremely aware of everything that is outside yourself.
In which context did you start to work with, to make music with participants outside of music school contexts?
Yeah, so this is something I got to do all this concert and all this this music for, and I went to places where I really thought, okay, it's not enough. I want to do more. I want to create music with. And for that, I got trained because I didn't have the skills. Making music with, you have to compose with the participants. It means that the participants, they are there to do. They are there to perform. They are there to learn from you. And so they are there to do. And for me, it was not about giving them the music, meaning that they go to a rehearsal, like a choir rehearsal, and they have this piece and they have to learn it. For me, this was not enough. And it's a very nice thing. I mean, amateur music is very important in a lot of communities, and it's really important. But for me, I really wanted them to have the ownership of what they were doing. And I got a training in Aix-en-Provence, in the lyrical festival of Aix-en-Provence. They have this outreach skills program led by the leader of this program is called Mark Withers, and Mark Withers is the head of the outreach department from the LSO, the London Symphonic Orchestra. And because in Anglo-Saxon countries, this is something that they are doing since a lot of years. When he came to work with Aix-en-Provence in the festival at the beginning, he was quite shocked that there were not a lot of artists that knew how to develop those skills. And so he said to Bernard Foucroul, who is the former director of La Monnaie and who was the director of the Aix-en-Provence festival at that time, they designed together this outreach skills program.
Did that then only go on during the festival period in the summer, or
no,
or also during the year?
It's a 3 period during the year, so it's 3 weeks. You train 3 times. You can reconduct it. I have been doing it for the past 5 years, I think.
So it's continuing now also that Bernard Foucault is not director anymore?
Yes, Pierre Rodi decided to keep it. Also because Bernard Faucroul built this specific training program for artists, but he also developed, as well as in La Monnaie, a cultural mediation department, an outreach department, people working all year with schools, with hospitals, with refugees, and they need the artists to come and they need us to train because we train, and then we go to those institutions to give some workshops. And they also have these local artists that are part of this department and that goes every day, every week to work with those groups of people.
We're really interested to learn more details about the Aix-en-Provence program, how it was really set up. Is it in connection to work in projects or is it just teaching outside of projects? How is it organized?
So this outreach department, Passerelle, is working hand by hand.
So it's called Passerelle?
So this is the outreach department. Yeah. It's not the outreach skills program, which is designed to train it's not the training program. It's the program that is there.
Yes, the overall program, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the department that helps the Aix-en-Provence festival to have an anchor in their region, meaning that they offer to groups to come to general rehearsal, to meet the artists during the big festival and everything. So this is the Passerelle department. And they are building a lot of things in hand with the mainstream festival, with the opera festival. But they also create workshop, like all year workshops in the schools, in the hospital, in the refugee centers. And they have people coming every week, artists coming every week, like a little bit like a teacher, but it's to build workshops, to help. For example, they have a group of highly handicapped girls, and they have someone going there every week to really work on how you can be calm with music, how you can perform music, and how it helps you to focus and everything. So they have that. And when you go to train, this training program, you train for that. You train to create workshops. You don't train to perform for, you train to perform with. You train in composition, you train in body language, you train in voice language, you train to create music with, meaning that if you have a piano, I got trained to make people that doesn't know how to play the piano, to enable them to use the piano. How can you make music when you're not a pianist, but you can still make sounds? And how do you make those sounds be a music?
It's quite astonishing that such a program is developed from a classical opera festival like Aix-en-Provence, no? Because does it anyway come near to the classical repertoire, the music that you propose in such programs?
Well, it depends. For example, being a partner artist, a trainee from this program since such a long time, the Aix-en-Provence Festival commissioned me a piece. They asked for me to create a piece specifically for kids. It's a 45-minute show where I perform with a vibraphone, like the instrument. We created a little story and we perform only classical music repertoire. And within this little piece, we have built some workshops to do with the audience so that the audience is participating in this piece. But sometimes, and especially with the highly handicapped people or also with the refugees, the idea is to create music, meaning that we touch to not the repertoire, but we touch to how we compose. We are actually working with modern music.
would like you to think of an experience where you think you made a mistake in this work, but a mistake which was interesting because you learned from it.
Well, this is a tough question because I don't...
You don't make mistakes?
No, it's not that, but I don't think they are mistakes. The thing is that when you are working with and that you go without expectations, I think the biggest mistake you could make is being too prepared or too less prepared. You need to find the right way of preparation. If you're too prepared, it means that you're not creating with. You are making them create what you want them to create. So in a way, you are using the participant to arrive where you want to arrive, which is for me the biggest mistake you could make, because what you want, well, or what I want, is really find this symbiosis, this place where we are all learning from each other. So if we are too prepared, if I am too prepared, I am expecting something and it doesn't come, I get frustrated, they get frustrated, and then the atmosphere is not right. If you're too less prepared, at the end of the day, they didn't learn anything and they get a little bit frustrated because they don't really know what happened and where they can go. I created a company, an opera company in the north of France, and we are doing only participatory projects right now. It means that it's called La Meute, and I created it with my partner in crime, Claire Pasquier. Claire Pasquier is a director, a stage director. And what we are doing is that we work for 2 weeks with a group of participants that are coming from any kind of backgrounds. With the last group was from 7 years old to 82 years old, and they are 25 and they need to create a show. We are creating an opera together on the text from... We are doing it in the north of France.
Where do you do that?
In Lille.
In connection with the opera, or?
It is not, but actually we received the support for the opera. I wanted to go back to that, actually. You said that it was unusual for the Festival Aix-en-Provence to do this kind of outreach work. Actually, there is so many operas that are doing it today. The La Monnaie is doing it. They have a great department, the Opera of Lille. But if you go abroad, the Met is like one of the biggest institution to develop our outreach program. They are crazy. The LSO, the London Symphonic Orchestra, it's crazy. All the Anglo-Saxon institutions, they all have their outreach program. And they are doing so many things, from kids to prisoners to, like, it's quite something. And an artist, for example, like Joyce Di Donato, is building with the Met, with Carnegie Hall, so many wonderful projects, and it's quite something. But so to come back...
Yes, I'm sorry to have interrupted you. So you were saying it was a project you're doing with La Meute is on a text of
Laurent Godet. Laurent Godet is a writer, a French writer, and he wrote a monologue on Dionysos, and it's actually a monologue that is talking about individuality in a group. And so we worked with 3 different composers that are composing a little bit the musical background that is pre-recorded, and then on this background, which is really like just sounds, and on this, the participants can create music. They can choose the lyrics they want from the piece. They can also write text. We are working a lot on live creation, meaning we are all on stage and we are creating, and we need to be super flexible because every time they give something, we need to take this something and think, okay, what can we do with it? How can we make it grow? And so at the end of the process, they feel like they are the composers and the performers and the stage director of this piece.
are things fixed then? I mean, who is making decisions on what to keep and what not to keep? Is that also a collaborative process? And
Yes.
how do
it
you
is.
organize that? Doesn't seem
So-
too easy to do that, but maybe it is for you. But
No, it is not. It is actually the 2 weeks of rehearsals we get out of there and we are washed. It's really difficult. So we have some kind of structure. So this piece is divided in several chants. And for each chant, we have a theme. And because of the text gave us the theme. And so for each part, we have this musical background. And on this, we have like a form or a structure. And within this, we can do whatever we want, like a sonate form. And then you create whatever you want. But you need to have one opening, one slow movement, and one really fast movement. And that's it. So it's the same for us. We have some kind of structure. And within that, they can create whatever they want. Everything is filmed. Every night we go back. We are thinking. Every day we are thinking, okay, this. And then we make proposition and we say, okay, we saw everything. Do you want to check? Do you want to see it? So they can also watch the video. They can also say, okay, yesterday I felt really comfortable doing this or doing this. Do you think we can keep it? Okay, why did you feel comfortable there? So it's a lot of talking. There is a lot of making, a lot of games, because to
games?
at the big musical games, stage games, like to open creativity. You can't arrive on stage and you say to someone, you are going to be a composer when they never composed. You need to trick them. And at a point, they are actually composing something and they didn't really understand that they were composing something. So we have a lot of games, we have a lot of exercises.
And who are we? How is the team composed?
So we are 3 for this first project. It's me, my colleague Claire, so Claire Pasquier, the stage director, and we have a performer and who is also the stage designer, Bastien Poncelet. And the participants are also creating the staging and the costumes and everything.
Can we now speak about your work with Equinox?
Yeah.
Is it in certain ways similar to what you developed with La Meute?
Well, at first it was not. So what I am doing with Equinox is the first project I did after my training in Aix-en-Provence. I did a concert in prison and I really decided it's where I decided that I wanted to do more, that I wanted to create with, because I felt it was such a shame to come to the prison just like on one shot, doing this concert and leave. And I felt like I really wanted to get involved in their lives and to really work on classical music. So the first program we did was to go there with a friend, my pianist friend, always the same, Christia Uzzi, and we designed workshops on classical music. We were singing one piece, then we were breaking it apart with the inmates, is trying to see how it was composed, how the text was composed, what the text was talking about. And then we were doing a lot of voice exercises so that they could really master their instrument, this voice instrument that we all have. For me, it's also when you work on the voice, you work on your inner self, you're in your ground. When you know how to really put your voice in your body, it makes you way more calm. It's a way for me to break the violent circle. So we work on that for a long time.
Yes,
and then
I'm interested in knowing what the timing is. What's the length?
We go once a week.
Wow.
Well, for a year we worked, a year and a half. But a prison, sometimes you arrive and then the doors doesn't open.
Yes.
So it's really difficult.
It's not always possible to get in.
Exactly.
And also now lately with the pandemic, it's also complicated, no?
It's really complicated and it's really frustrating because we have not seen the inmates for over a year now. I'm very angry that the doors are not opening because for the inmates it's really it's such a hard time. They have nothing anymore. They are in their cells and they have no opening on the outside world, no way of improving any kind of skills that they could improve for the day they go out, because almost all the inmates, they go out, and these workshops are for them a tool to get ready to go back to society. And if they don't have that, they just go to prison and go out and nothing has changed. And it's actually way more difficult for them. So in prison, we went just two of us, Christian and I, the pianist and we decided that it was a little bit too much, especially because we also have our performing work, like the mainstream music, and it's difficult to commit to a every week workshop, because sometimes we have a production and I'm away for a month and a half, and what can I do? So we created a team, and now we want to work to create with the inmate a show that would go to the theater around the Winterreise from Schubert. And for that, there will be Christian, there will be Claire Pasquier, because La Meute is taking over for the creative part of this. Equinox stays at the coordination part that enables us to go to prison, and La Meute, the collective, is getting all the creative parts. And we will go also with another musician that comes from the modern music world and the electronic music, so that we can mix also the musical worlds. We can put together Schubert and the electronic music of today and see what comes out of it.
Sarah, doing this social and community music projects, has this changed somehow how you perform as a musician, as a singer, in your career as a singer? Do you feel differently, or do you also have the impression that you're performing differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to go out.
Is it possible to explain?
Yeah, of course. I don't want to take out the violins here, but it changed everything. It changed my whole life. I became such a better performer.
In which way?
In the way that I stopped wanting for things to happen. I made things happen, first of all, because when you go into this kind of work, you are involved in the organization of your performance. It means that you have to reach out and say, okay, I'm a classical singer, I could go here, I could go here. So you learn to become active in the way that you have something to offer. And so, first of all, this helped me a lot. Then this flexibility that I was talking about before helped me so much to not care about the outside, about the acoustic, about the getting everything perfect, to get to be in the best shape of ever. I learned that I could actually sing in any kind of circumstances, and this is something that I take in me. Some kind of calm that I have now in me, that I know that I can go on any stage, anywhere in the world, outside, on a theater, in a church, in a school, in a gymnasium, everywhere, and I can sing and I can touch people. And because if you go with a complete open spirit, there is something that is happening. So for me, it changed a lot.
Sarah, un grand merci, vraiment.
Sarah Théry just told us about her work with Claire Pasquier and the projects of their collective La Meute. We decided to also talk with Claire herself.
Hello, Claire Pasquier. Together with Sarah Théry, you have created Le Collectif Meute in France. And before talking with you about your research project, I would like you to shortly present the work of Collectif Meute.
Thanks for the invitation. So the Collectif Meute was created in 2019 with the idea of sharing opera and lyrical music in different ways than what we were used, Sarah and I, in our practice. So we wanted to have more time on stage to experiment new images, new ways of co-creation. We wanted also to try to renew formats, but also stories, in order to have them closer from us and to have a more inclusive representation of the society through those stories.
So you developed the work together with non-professional musicians and actors and...
Yes, we thought that one of the key to do that, to build new bridges to audiences, but also to amateurs, was to go through participatory processes. So our first opera is called Furieux. It's a new composition made by three composers, Jeanne Suzin, Ève Risser, and Sylvain Rabourdin. And the idea was to offer citizens a space of research and expression around the story of Dionysos. What we did is that we really experiment a new way of doing. So now it's easier to talk about it from here. But at that time, it was really day by day process, I would say. And we very soon felt that it was important to go through several languages at the same time, so that each person who would participate could find his own path in the project. So with the body, with the voice, with the words, with individual actions, and also through choral and collective actions. And we realized the group was very powerful, and the connections between the people were created very fast and very strongly. We tried, it was a quite long process, at least 3 years, working with a lot of groups, like maybe 500 persons. And we always tried in the groups to mix people from different backgrounds. So we could work with association, we could work with individuals, and some of them were really used to this kind of processes. For others, it was completely new, and we really liked this idea of creating groups that has different colors.
Where are you based?
We are based in the north of France, in Lille. But this process started in Luxembourg because we were selected by Talent Lab in Luxembourg. So we first worked with people in Luxembourg, then in France, in a very, very local way first. Really, the structures around my house that I went to meet and offer to be part of the process. And then little by little, with new partners, it became bigger and bigger. And most of the creation was done in Mel or in the surroundings. But we also created a little part in Belgium as well.
And so now, after these several years of practice, you wish to develop research. And why is that?
This project, Furieux, invited people to be on stage with us and to participate to the process in this particular way of being a performer and co-creator. But then we were asking ourselves, what are other ways to make people interact with the sound, with the bodies, and co-create in several formats.
Yeah.
And we started to do installations like, for instance, spaces that you can go through and it makes music happens, or it makes light elements happening. And other experiment is our new project in around Winterreise of Schubert. And in this particular case, we were questioning the fact of making people who cannot move to participate, meaning that we went in jail, in psychiatrical hospitals, and we went to meet these persons and to talk with them about how you can still continue to move when your body is enclosed. And those questions about how can we make citizens interact in several ways with the project needed to be focused a little bit more thanks to the research. We needed to work with researchers from several fields to understand better what was our impact and what was the meaning and the processes we were going through.
So you're inviting people from research to help you develop the practice.
Yes, absolutely. The first project, students would come during the last part of the creation process and would, as participants or as external witness, analyze the creation process. For Panorama, which is this project I told you about Schubert's Winterreise, here our questions were around what does it mean to go in jail? In which way? What are the impact of this? And we asked a sociologue to help us on those questions. For another installation, we were working about transforming the panorama you can hear and see from your window. And for this particular project, we work with a geographical department of the university in Lille to question how can you engage a participation of the citizens in transforming their own area. And working with them would really help us to understand better the impact, but also the creation process itself. And we also wanted to be part of this reflection. So I started to study also research action and research creation so that I can try to be part of this research as an artist and as a researcher.
You have already several experiences of such collaboration with researchers. It's not something that you need to start with. You already have experience.
Yes, we did it from the very beginning in a very intuitive way, I have to say. And I think it's also answer a need of the university to have artistic projects to work on. So it's interesting also for them to have, I don't know in English, terrain de recherche.
Research field, yeah.
Because it's research-based field, yeah. And also, something that we often pop up is how do we share those knowledges? And the process of sharing a research help us to find new ways of sharing those knowledges. And I think in this way, everyone is really growing up by working together and mixing our methodology of research as well, our processes. So I have the feeling it's a win-win experience, and it's very at the heart of our work now.
Claire, it's really interesting to see that you are developing relationship with researchers from different fields, sociology, geography also, in order to help you develop the artistic project that you're working on. Can you give us some concrete examples of this?
The collaborations have been very different in each process. But if I take the example of Isoloir, Isoloir is an installation in which you can enter your address, you enter in a big box, and in this box you have an application that allow you to change what you hear and what you see from your window. The idea...
From your window, from your own house.
From your own house, yes. Thanks to the app, you will put together a complete soundscape.
Yes.
And the same for the visual aspect. The idea of working from your own windows is to put the visitor in a situation of being an expert of this particular question. No one better than this person knows the view and the soundscape from this window. And in this case, with a researcher in geography, what was interesting is that they were doing a research about territorial consultation, meaning that when politics want to make big changes in an area, they have to ask the inhabitants what they think about the changes.
Yeah, to consult the people living there.
To consult the citizens, exactly. And those researchers realized that there is not really an efficient tool or methodology that brings the people to feel legitimate in giving their opinions, because they're in front of researcher and they all have the feeling that the other know better than them what should be done. This installation, Isoloir, was also developed with the researcher in the idea that maybe if we start with an artistic process and invite people to change what they see and what they hear from their window, in a second time, if they are asked to participate to this consultation, they would feel much more comfortable in sharing their opinions. So this is an example of how art and science can both
profit,
yes, from the combination of the two processes.
Yes. Claire, as this episode of the podcast is about music, theatre and opera, can you give an example of such a similar collaboration between researchers and you as artists, but in the context of a music theatre production?
Mm-hmm. For our first show, Furieux, a group of students and two researchers were invited to follow the process. So it was for them the first research, action-based research, in which they would participate. So the two teachers would bring them into rehearsals with us, and the group would split in two parts: the one who participate and the one who watch from outside. All of them would then focus in one particular aspect of this creation. So some would focus in the rehearsal and co-creation process. Some will focus on the composition of the group. Everyone would choose a specific topic, also some about the composition. How do the composers would compose for this particular performers, that amateurs and professionals? How do we deal with the differences in the virtuosity and technicity between a trained classical singer and a group of amateurs, for instance? And all this research would be led by the two researchers that were organizing this course. And then we would receive a book in which you have all those testimonials and researches. So the idea is also here for the students to learn, to train how to lead a research. And for us, the benefit is that we really have 10 different eyes on our work.
How do you manage this? Isn't that disturbing to have all these students coming into a practice process?
No, it was really natural. We asked the permission to the group, so everyone agree, and it was really, really natural. And also, as I said before, the group of participants on stage was composed of very different people. So those 5 students in the group, it was also completely natural because you also had students in theater that would participate, or students in in theater, in music, or so the composition of the group helped to welcome them in a very natural way.
Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
SIMM is the initiative of scholars and practitioners from 7 different countries and 4 different continents who felt the growing need to find ways to bring together people interested in developing research on the possible role music can play in social and community music programs. Sound engineer and co-editor of this episode of the SIMM podcast is musician Mariusz Radwanski. Please visit our website at simm-platform.eu.